Hello, welcome to the Analyst Inside Cricket with me, Simon Hughes in London.
And I'm Simon Mann at Edgbaston.
Now, we started the day's play today, Simon, with England having just a slim chance of victory. Betfair said 10%. Well, by the end of a pretty harrowing day for the England bowlers and a run-drunk day for the Indian batsmen, England now have a 1% chance of winning. I don't even give them that, do you?
No, I don't either. I suppose 1% because I don't know what, because you can't go to 0%. I don't know how the algorithms work, but England got no chance of winning this match. And the only option available to them is to play for a draw. And of course, we've heard lots of interviews from England players during this test match saying, that's not our mentality. We don't play to draw. But of course, it's the only option available. So you've got to take the option that is available to you. Having said that, of course, you're 3 down overnight going to the final day. Even back in the day, if you're 3 down, it's still going to be difficult to save the game. So, England are totally up against it in this match. They've been outplaying for most of it. Just in that partnership between Joni Smith and Brooke, did England dominate and control the match for a bit. But India have been ahead. They've outplayed England, and they've got a magnificent chance of winning this game tomorrow.
So the raw facts are that England are 72 for 3 in their second innings, set over 600 to win. That means they need another 536 with 7 wickets in hand. And obviously Joe Root, their number 1 batter, is back in the hutch as well. So a run-drunk day, as I said, for the Indian batters. I suppose the only place they went wrong was batting perhaps too long after tea. I felt that Jadeja was sort of a bit aimless and knocking it around, not really doing much before tea in partnership with Shubman Gill, who was obviously the star turn of the day for the second time. But they didn't seem to have any real plan. It was just a bit kind of going nowhere in that sort of little half an hour before tea. I mean, you said yesterday that India should set England about 520. I thought even less than that, actually. Maybe even you wouldn't have gone as far as 600, would you?
Oh, yeah, I would have done. Absolutely. I loved India's approach. I thought it's absolutely the right way to go ultimately because they got to that 520 way before I expected them to do so. So they probably felt they had to keep on batting. And of course, England said that they will try to chase anything. They'll be positive. They'll try to win the game. So why not just keep them out there? And it's not just the run. You don't need 600, but it's what 600 does, I think, to a batting side. And also, you kept out in the field. You have that sense of pointlessness as you're bowling and fielding. You're just waiting for the declaration, and you're not just waiting for 2 or 3 overs. You're waiting for it almost for a half an hour, 3/4 an hour. So I think there's a mental and physical disintegration aspect to it, which I thought was absolutely fair, and it was justified as well. India had that burst and enough overs to get into England. It was 18 overs. It went down to 16, and they picked up 3 wickets. And so, job done. Absolutely justified. I thought India's approach was absolutely fine. Do they need 600? No, almost certainly not. And 520 would have been enough. And who knows, 450 might well be enough as well. But why not really rub it in and say, if you want to win this game, if you want to come after us, have a go at 608.
Yeah, but I would just say that you need a lot of time, potentially, to bowl England out on this pitch. I mean, obviously, as it proved, they got 3 fairly quick wickets tonight. But it could have been that England survived overnight without any loss. And then
they didn't.
I know they didn't. I know, but they didn't. But I'm just saying that say they had. India would then have 90 overs on the final day to win the match and bowl England out, take the 10 wickets, and they might not have had time with some rain forecast for tomorrow as well, potentially. I just think they needed to give themselves maximum time to bowl England out, and they didn't.
Look, it's sunny behind me at the moment. The forecast tomorrow is not quite as bad as we thought it might be. I think there might be some morning rain around about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, something like that. The rest of the day is expected to be dry, blustery, but dry. And we can make up an hour on the final day, and you have to bowl all the overs. So full 90 overs. The other factor as well is that India probably didn't want to use too much of the new ball tonight. So bowl 15, 16 overs with it. And so it's still relatively hard tomorrow morning to come back potentially under lights tomorrow. If it's overcast tomorrow morning, as it was this morning, it might nip around a bit, and that might be worth another wicket or two in the morning. I mean, England actually bombed quite well this morning under the lights with the overcast conditions. They were a bit unlucky. They might have picked up more wickets than they did. So I think that's India's tactics, and I think that just keeping England out there, it's just such. You wrote a book, Yoz, once, didn't you, called A Lot of Hard Yakka, and that's what it was about for England, and it is dispiriting, must be. Don't you think you must have had days like that where you've just been kept out in the field waiting for the declaration? You probably played more 3-day cricket than 4-day cricket. 4-day cricket probably can be a bit more ruthless in that sense, but you know what it's like being out in the field when you're just being roasted by the opposition.
Yeah, and you're very footsore and you're mentally and physically tired, obviously, and things just don't work very well. And obviously the converse is the bowling team have had their feet up for a long time, enjoying watching their batters smack it around. And psychologically, England are tired, you're full of energy, you haven't done much bowling for a day or so, and you can exploit their slight sort of sluggishness or or hesitancy or whatever. So you're right. I mean, clearly there is that sort of psychological and physical advantage to wearing them down that little bit longer. I just think that pitch is so flat. It is a new ball pitch, and 3 wickets have fallen to the new ball in 16 overs. But it might be that no more wickets fall against the old ball, and suddenly they've only got 20 overs to win the match on the final day, because England bat for 50 or 60 overs tomorrow against the older ball. And you've got the likes of Harry Brook, obviously Jamie Smith to come, Stokes, etc. So they've shown that you can bat for a long time on this pitch and not be in too much trouble against an older ball. Anyway, I mean, it's all kind of conjecture. India will probably wrap it up by mid-afternoon. We'll see. So that the cards are all, they have all the aces in the pack at the moment, don't they?
Yeah, they do, and I think the point is as well is that they probably know. I mean, they probably know that the England players to come, that the Brooks is out there, Pope is out there, Jamie Smith to come, will give them an opportunity as well. That they will at some stage take it on, a bit like Zach Crawley took it on tonight and drove at a ball that was wide of off stump and drilled one straight to backward point. So I think, I think the big question tomorrow is how are England going to approach it? Are they going to say to themselves, look, okay, put the bad ball away. You've always got to do that, haven't you, as a batting side? But are we going to be really disciplined and try to really make India work hard for their wickets from the first ball to the last ball? Because, look, cricketing logic says you can't win this game. The highest first-class chase ever was 536. England needs 608 to win. There was that game last year between Gloucestershire and Glamorgan where Glamorgan tied chasing 593, all that for 592. So this is it's such in ridiculous territory in terms of meaning that a draw is your only option. So you have to try and discipline yourself to that. And having got that in them, I don't just mean mentally their approach, but also technically as well. Have they got the sort of players in there that can really grind it out for a draw on the final day? One thing I do remember, Adelaide Test match on the last tour, Joss Buttler batting 26 in over 200 balls on the final day, just completely changed his game to try to do something against the grain, against his nature. And it nearly worked. It gave England a chance of saving the game. I suppose it's that. I'm fascinated to see whether England have got that in them tomorrow to really say, right, India, you outplayed us in this match, but we really want to go to Lord's 1-0 up, because we can't go to Lord's 2-0 up, but we're desperate to go 1-0 up. So I think that's the fascination tomorrow, having got that in there. And look, if England are able to extend the day and really make India work hard, then perhaps your argument comes into play that India batted on too long. They got too many runs. They used up too much time. But I quite liked what was in India's mind today. And that's just me, probably. You approach it in a different way. You were saying 450 and kind of half dangle a carrot, but I'm not for that. I think it's tough cricket, and when you get
you're more sadistic than me, aren't you? Generally, basically. So actually, and what England do need is a Shubman Gill. because Gill has broken a number of records today, not least the second most number of runs made in a test match by a batter, 430, only second to Graham Gooch, 456 against India in 1990. Of course, the famous innings match when he got 333 in one innings and 123 in the second. And also the what other records has he broken? The second batter in Test history to make 250s in one game, and the first one was Alan Border in 1980, the great Australian player. Only the second Indian to get a double and a century in the same Test. Of course, the first would have to be either Sachin Tendulkar or Sunny Gavaskar, and it was actually Gavaskar. And, you know, in total, India, 1,014 runs in the match, which is, I think, only the sixth time that a team has made 1,000 runs in a test match. I mean, it's been a tremendous testament to their dedication to the crease, notably Shubman Gill.
And just one other thing on Gill, Yoz, he's made 585 runs in the series. We've had 2 test matches. But the record for a series is one you think, well, never, no one's ever going to get near that. No one's ever going to break. It's a Don Bradman record going back to 1930. 974 runs. Is that on? Gill's innings today, it was a bit like his innings the other day. He just did not look like getting out. I suppose you could say there was kind of less pressure on him today because India had the runs and they were on the board and they were just grinding it out and churning the board over. And so, in a way, he had the confidence in that first innings double century as well. But it was a huge surprise when he was out caught and bowled by Bashir. England tried a tactic of a leg slip and Stokes angling it down the leg side and see if he could glance it to the leg slit. But I mean, it's horrible, isn't it? When there's a batter out there, you think, how on earth are we going to get this bloke out? How would you try? What would you do? How would you try to get him out? What sort of things could England try?
It's obviously very tough. I quite like their ploy of the bouncer tactic, actually, but it didn't work. And actually, his practice, we've talked about this the other day, his practice against his dad's fizzing the ball down on the charpoy, that stretched out bed of jute, which acts as a sort of slip cradle type device, which he can bounce balls off when Shubman was a young boy, and obviously enhancing his reactions and reflexes. That came to his aid today with some of his hook shots, which were got inside the line and hooked them away. One or two could have landed into a fielder's lap, but it wasn't to be. He played very cleverly. I mean, his weakness has always been, well, I say always, last year and the year before, people got the ball to nip back at him and get through the gate just outside off stump, but there has been very little seam movement on this pitch, and what you've got to do is get him early in this test match. He coming in at number 4, he's got that protective curtain of the top 3, so England weren't able to get at him in the first 10 overs when the ball was doing a little bit. I thought Cass could have been the man to get him, and he actually bowled a really good spell, but just perhaps the ball wasn't quite hard enough when Gill was facing for him to really cause problems. He's got a great technique. He's a very, I mean, he got one from Cass early on which swung away a bit, and whereas actually Karen Nair that earlier had played and missed, Gill just adjusted and played a lovely glided sort of drive shot, adjusting to the slight movement. So he's got a fantastic method. He's at the top of his game. It's not easy at the moment. Somebody with that level of confidence and that level of technical ability, and obviously the devotion to the crease that he has sort of naturally, is pretty tough. Nip back is the one ball, I think, but he seems to have countered that well, and England just never found the ball that one or two of the Indian bowlers have produced to the England players.
It's probably fair to say, Yoz, that he's playing on some good pitches. I mean, they've been excellent batting pitches, haven't they? Headingley and here. And traditionally, when you come to England, you're challenged by the moving ball. The ball has not moved that much, and that that's an issue, and that's gone in his favour, isn't it? So he's had lovely batting conditions at the start of this series, and you wonder what we're going to get for the rest of the series. Lords can go flat, often starts a bit challenging. Old Trafford's got a bit of pace and bounce in it normally. Oval They leave some grass on, but essentially it's a good pitch. And actually, there's just been a game in which Surrey has got 800 and Durham finished 262 for no wickets. So in this weather, with these pitches, and it looks as if England want to play on these type of pitches as well because they like to go at it with their attacking batters. It's quite a lot in Gill's favour. So it would be interesting, wouldn't it? I think to see him challenged on what you might call a green English seamer, if they exist anymore.
I mean, the answer, of course, is to bring Jofra in for the third test because Jofra's knocked him over a couple of times in the IPL by getting the ball to nip back, and Jofra has that extra bit of deception and sort of slipperiness that could possibly cause a problem. I mean, the trouble with this England bowling attack is it's a bit plain, isn't it? It lacks a little bit of mystery, a little bit of X factor, if you like. Hard triers, hard workers, but with no natural movement off the pitch, not much swing. It's going to be hard work for them unless they have a Mark Wood or a Jofra who has that little bit of extra something that might just get through.
Yeah, and they're quite inexperienced bowlers, aren't they, at this level? Not everyone, but, you think Brian Carson, Josh Chung and Shoaib Bashir as well, and we'll talk about him after the break. So they're quite inexperienced, and they're playing on very flat pitches against good batters as well. They're coming up against the likes of KL Rahul and Rishabh Pant and Shubman Gill, and these are high-class players, and Jaiswal as well. These are good players, and we're right in the bang in the middle of summer. The weather's been fantastic. The pitches are good. These are quite nice conditions for India to play. And you think back to Headingley, actually, that was a great missed opportunity for India at Headingley. England played magnificently to win, but India, goodness me, they had some chances in that game. So, they've got some talent, and they definitely made the most of it so far in this series. And it looks as if it's going to be 1-1. If it's not 1-1 tomorrow evening, then something really special will have happened, I think, tomorrow, because you'd expect to be able to take 7 wickets on the final day of a test match, almost anywhere in the world, almost under any circumstances, really.
So the Betfair exchange today is a discussion about Shoaib Bashir and his position in the team. Now, one sort of unfortunate record that has been set today, or nearly set, was the most runs conceded by an England bowler in a test match. That record is actually currently held by Rowley Jenkins, who conceded 290 in a test match in 1950, actually, against the West Indies for England. Dougie Wright is second with 288, the leg spinner from Kent. And I'm afraid to say Shoaib Bashir is now in third place on that list. He today, or in the match overall, conceded 286 runs. Obviously, he bowled a lot of overs, nearly 70 overs. He took 5 wickets. But that's a lot of runs to be conceded. And I suppose it will enable the view that perhaps he's not the right bowler to be playing Test cricket, especially as he can't even get in the Somerset team at the moment. It will give that argument a bit more weight. How do you see it? How do the punters see it, do you think?
Well, I think it's hard to know, isn't it? But I don't sense that there's a lot of support for him as a person, but I don't sense there's necessarily a lot of support now for him as a member of the team. But of course, he's really backed by the England management and Ben Stokes, and they've set a lot by him, and they really have backed him, and they consistently pick him. But you go by what you read on social media, and people saying that the experiment is not worked. It's asking a lot of someone who's 21 years of age, doesn't play county cricket regularly, and struggles to control an innings and get good players out. One of the things I would say, and I would agree with all that. It is asking quite a lot of him. He's a young bowler. He's talented. He's trying different things. He's trying to bowl the Karen ball, and the version of Shoaib Bashir in say 6 to 8 years might be a really good product, but at the moment, is it enough? Is it what England need? The other thing, Yoz, as well, is that often England win the toss and they bat second, so he's having to bowl first and third rather than second and last. And I think there's spinners like to bowl last, don't they? They like to bowl in the 4th innings, and he took wickets against Zimbabwe, took wickets against West Indies last year when there's some pressure on and the ball is turning a bit. But look, it's a really difficult situation. It's a unique situation. I don't know how England solve it, other than they could go to another spinner. They could go back to Jack Leach. They could go to someone like Jack Carson at Sussex. They could throw Jacob Bethel in and say, right, you're going to have to do our holding job as a spinner if we're going to bowl. Second, you can be our holding spinner and strengthen the batting. Those are some of the options I see. The other one is just to continue and just hope that his height and potential bounce in Australian pitches works, which is kind of why they selected him in the first place. It's a long-term view, isn't it?
Now, I mean, there are some mitigating factors for him and conceding all those runs in this Test match. I mean, one is, of course, the pitch is incredibly flat. There's nothing in it for him. There hasn't been anything in it for him the whole game. The second thing is that the Indian batters are obviously excellent against spin, and actually all batters are excellent against spin. I mean, the improvement in playing spin over the last 10 to 20 years, partly induced by T20 and one-day cricket, it's improved exponentially. So, it's much harder for a spinner now to dominate, control, than it would even in, say, Graham Swan's era, because the range of strokes, the repertoires of batters, their ability today, Rishabh Pant swept a decent ball from Shoaib Bashir, which was probably pitching about middle and maybe just hitting off stump. He swept it over his head. He fought that falling sweep shot, falling ramp shot. Nobody played that shot. Well, apart from Rohan Kanai, actually, for West Indies and Warwickshire in about 1970. Nobody really played that shot before. So, there are so many shots that these batters have to play against spin and to keep the scoreboard moving as well and stop them from building up any pressure. So that's really tough. Now, one other point, though, I think, which is really important, is that a finger spinner especially in the modern day with flat pitches which don't deteriorate, is a bit of an expensive luxury. And you need someone who's going to take wickets and be a real threat. Unless they are a Nathan Lyon, they are a bit of an expensive luxury. And with that in mind, they need to be able to have another string to their bow, in my view. They need to be a bit like wicket keepers before the Adam Gilchrist era, who could be specialists, the sort of Jack Russell types who were brilliant keepers and could contribute with the bat, but not significantly. That ended with the arrival of Gilchrist, and then you had to have keepers who could make an impact with the bat as well. And I think the same is now applied to spinners. We've talked about this before. Liam Dawson was one who said this on our podcast, actually, that the future of finger spin is they've got to be able to bat like Dawson can. And just in reference to that, I noticed that there's a stat that's come up today that Shoaib Bashir has the biggest differential between batting average and bowling average, apart from one, in the history of cricket. So, the history of English cricket. Pat Pocock, the former Surrey spinner, has the worst differential, 38, between his batting and bowling average. So his bowling average was 38 points higher than his batting average. Bashir's is 32 runs, his bowling average higher than his batting average. So you're in a way, for every wicket that falls, he's costing the team 32 or something. I suppose that is one way of looking at it. And I just don't think they can afford that sort of differential. So Bashir is a genuine number 11. And, other people on that list include Phil Tufnell, Devon Malcolm, Monty Panesar, Dougie Wright, who I mentioned earlier. Obviously, Devon Malcolm was a quick bowler, and he had a force. He had something that he could offer, i.e. extreme pace, which was worth having, because even though he couldn't bat, he had that unusual threat that he could pose with the ball. But unfortunately, Shoaib Bashir, to a lesser extent Tufnell and Panesar, could only really pose a threat when there was something in their favour in the pitch, and you don't get that anymore. So are they an expensive luxury that England can't afford anymore?
So what are you saying, Giles? Are you saying that England shouldn't play a spinner, or they should just play a part-time spinner like Bethel, or they should just play an extra pace bowler?
Well, I wonder whether, your point there about could Bethel do a job. I think, honestly, on these kind of pitches, which don't offer the spinner anything, I think someone like Bethel probably could do an okay job. And obviously they bring a lot more runs as well. I mean, Joe Root took a wicket in the first innings, didn't he, by bowling Washington Sundar, who'd made a few runs, and he bowled him with a ball that turned a bit. And obviously, Joe Root is not a frontline bowler, but perhaps the combination of Bethel and Root can offer something, and at least you get the runs back from them, which you don't get from Bashir. So sadly, I think the days of finger spinners, unless they are Matai Muralidharan, I think the days of finger spinners who can't bat are done.
So do you think England will make a change? I mean, that's the other question, because I mean they've got their plans, and it's kind of similar with Zach Crawley as well, isn't it? They've got their plans in place, and they back these players, and this is not a new thing we're talking about. It's been going on for quite a long time. So what do? We've still got 3 more Test matches to come in this series, and then there's the Ashes. What do they do?
Well, they've nailed to their colours to the mast, haven't they? By investing faith in Bashir. I mean, I haven't seen enough of him to be sure, but someone like Jack Carson would be worth looking at. So Jack Carson, I spoke to Paul Farbrace, or I texted Paul Farbrace today actually, who's his coach at Sussex, and he says he's the best off spinner in England, and also not only has he taken a lot of wickets recently. He took 50 wickets last year for Sussex in the county championship, added 22, and he's taken 30 odd this year at a higher average, but he's still taken a decent number of wickets. Bowled Hampshire out 5 for 26 about a month ago, but he also made his maiden first class 100 this year and has got 11 50s. So he does bring another influence. Obviously people will say Liam Dawson. I feel Liam Dawson doesn't quite pose the threat because he's quite low. He's quite a short bowler, and he won't get much bounce on Test pitches. Well, he doesn't get much bounce on county pitches. So he's a good bowler, but I just don't think he would get the wickets that perhaps Carson might. So if they're not going to go down the Carson route, then the Jacob Bethel, Joe route might be the one they finish up using. At the moment, they're still probably aligned to using Bashir, and to be fair to him, he's tried to improve. He didn't bowl badly in this game. I didn't think he was fairly steady. He tried his carom ball. He varied his pace. He varied his trajectory. He didn't bowl a lot of rubbish. He was decent, but there was just nothing there for him. And you sort of feel that England were kind of only bowling him because he was in the team rather than because he actually posed a threat.
Well, I'm not sure that's true. I think they needed to bowl him so that they could rotate the quick bowlers and rest them at the other end. I mean, it was noticeable today, wasn't it? That actually, a lot of the main bowlers didn't bowl a huge amount today. I think there was an acceptance. What with the next Test match coming up fairly shortly, what's the point of sort of flogging them for not much reward, because India were so far ahead, and the die was cast in the game really. So I think there's that aspect to it. Look, it's not easy. It's not easy for him. He's a young bowler, bowling on very good pitches against good opposition, and England are wedded to this idea, especially at home, of bowling second. So the odds are kind of stacked against it. I actually feel quite sorry for him, really.
No, I do as well. I'm sorry if I sound harsh. I feel sorry for him too. And just to finish on that, they picked him primarily because they felt he could have an impact in Australia, didn't they? With the bounce that he gets.
And that's a good point.
And you interviewed him, the other day, and said you were sort of struck by how tall he is, and he does have a very high release point, and he does get bounce. But all I'd say is Nathan Lyon in the last series in Australia against India took 9 wickets at 40. So even his impact in Australia is diminishing, and it's partly because of the flatness of the pitches. It's partly because of the brilliance of the batters.
But you do need a spinner, though, don't you, to give some respite to your pace bowlers. Perhaps not everywhere. I mean, that's the thing. You've got to try to assess the pitch before you start the game and think how quick is the game going to be, and how much you're going to need your spinner, and how much actually do you think you can just rely on pace and perhaps get by with a little bit of part-time spin. This is, I suppose, where Jacob Bethel comes into the argument. It's a fascinating discussion. I mean, there are people listening to this be saying, look, just make the decision, just make a change, it's not working. And I can understand that point of view. But England they're quite stubborn. They stick to their plans.
Well, and they're loyal as well, and that's good too.
Well, yeah, but the part of the plan, though, isn't it, is that she is height and extra banks in Australia. That's kind of what they've been working towards. Part of the problem is that as they've been getting more and more experience, batters have been getting on top of him, and it's been tough for him. It's sometimes it's quite hard to watch it, I think. It's a really unique situation. In fact, he can't get into his county team because Somerset prefer the batter who does give them more, Archie Vaughan, to bowl the off breaks, and Jack Leach who's so steady for Somerset and gives them a lot. So
yeah.
I can't, in the whole time I've been watching cricket and following England, I can't ever remember a situation like this before. It is unique.
No, it is unique. But if you look at the way that, say, Somerset, or perhaps you could say Surrey operate, really, Somerset sort of think, well, Archie Vaughan's there to bowl off spin. He's there primarily as a batter. And he's batting at 7 now. He did open, but he's batting further down the order. But they know if the pitch starts to turn, he's there as a good option. And look at Surrey. Well, they think they don't even need a spinner. We'll just have Dan Lawrence. And Dan Lawrence, again, proper batter, who comes in at number 6 and bowls a few overs and gets a few wickets. And
Will Jacks as well.
And Will Jacks. So it's interesting to look at the county approach to this. And perhaps there's a lesson there, maybe.
Yeah. Well, we could talk about this all night, Yoz, couldn't we?
Yeah.
It's a debate that's out there, and everyone will have their view about it.
Yeah.
I think we should wrap up. Just finally, so you're saying India to win. What are the odds on an Indian victory tomorrow?
Well, there's a shot. Odds on an Indian win. Well, I say odds. A percentage chance of an Indian win, 86%. The draw, 14%. England, 1%.
That feels about right. Well, we will report back after the 5th day and give our analysis of what happened on that final day of the Test match. That's it for today. It's goodbye from Edgbaston. Thanks for listening. Speak to you soon.
And don't forget, if you are going to bet, you must be 18 or over, and please gamble responsibly. And thanks very much to Betfair for supporting this podcast. Right.
Let's hope so.
Well, it's up to 48 on the recording, so hopefully it has. I'm just going to end session. I'm just going to end the session.
Okay.